Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Chronicles with us, the Red Devil Chronicle. My name's Andy.
My name's Nick.
And this week the Black Cats give United no luck. It's United Chat coming up next.
Wabi Kazri to get the ball into the box. Tunisian international. Not a particularly impressive free kick, but it's gone in. Would you believe that? Lingard. Darmian. In quickly came Kazri. Goal kick. And a bit of pain for Matteo Darmian too. The way he landed on that left shoulder did not help. Martial. Not clear yet. It's Juan Mata. Great save by Manone, but it is turned in by Martial. Quick in thought indeed. Kazri corner. Gonna get another one. I know I'm about to curse him, but too often you see at this lofty level of the game, corners hit the first defender. Kazri hasn't done that once yet. In again from Kazri. Great chance and it's in! And Lamine Kone has powered Sunderland back in front. It's another brilliant Wabi Kazri corner. No more at the Stadium of Light, where for the first time in the Premier League, Sunderland have beaten Manchester United. It is a huge result for Sam Allardyce's team. Sunderland 2, Manchester United 1.
Yes, indeed. Sunderland 2, Manchester United 1. Another shocking weekend for a Manchester United fan everywhere across the country. It was a Saturday lunchtime kickoff, and we're going to start the show by having a look back at the worst bits of it and the best bits if there were any. Joined as always by Nick to my left, producer Joe through the glass. Good evening to you, gents.
Hello, you all right?
Longest intro ever, by the way.
It was a very long intro, but
I thought I'd treat you seeing as I'm back. I've got to do something.
Absolutely. Reliving some of the glory moments of the Sunderland game there. We're also joined this week by a special guest in the studio. We've got Sam, a United fan, also in with us this evening. Good evening, Sam.
Evening, guys.
Welcome to the show. So let's dive straight in then, gents. I'm actually going to kick off with you, Sam. I've got an interesting stat together here, as I often like to do, as Joe knows. Sunderland have won 6 league games all season this season. Those teams that they've beaten are Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Stoke, Villa, Swansea, and yes, Manchester United. Sam, why do you think Manchester United are the only big club on that list? Why are we struggling so much to beat the so-called lesser teams in the division?
I just think there's no passion and no flair. I think the ones that they beat are the teams they had to beat to even stand a chance of coming up. So that the United team lacked any passion in that game, and that showed when they lost 2-1.
Passion, flair, big issues, Nick. Motivation as well, often mentioned. What happened on the day? What went so badly wrong for us yet again?
I'm like a one-out record now, and even being honest, we don't scare teams. Every team we play against has a go at us. Obviously, I've said this before, it takes months, it takes years, it takes weeks to build a fear factor. It takes days and hours to get rid of it. And we don't have any ever since Moyes has come and destroyed us, and then Louis van Gaal took over. No, Sunderland played well for what they were doing. You know, they got the 3 points. Fair play to them. They're in a relegation battle, but we're not good enough. Like Sam said, there's no passion in the team. There's no aggression. Van Gaal blamed that at the end of the match again. But if you can't get, motivation for a game like that when you're trying to fight for top 4, something wrong.
How did you see it, Joe? A case of Manchester United being terrible, or Sunderland doing as most lesser teams would and picking their games up for us?
Do you know what? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I had to listen to it back just to create that horrible 1 minute 50 clip.
Yeah, appreciate that, Joe.
The thing is, I think we just, like Nick says, the teams are learning how to play us. And every week it gets more and more predictable, and we don't change our game, and it's just always the same boring thing that we have to put ourselves through, and it's just getting old, isn't it? I'm just waiting for a change.
Who have we got in the league next? Arsenal, is it?
We have,
right.
Yeah.
You're Arsene Wenger right now. You look at this United team. What do? 2 men on Martial. That's pretty much all we have to do. 2 men on Martial and just mark him out the game.
Put Danny Welbeck up front.
Well, you got some fast players in the Arsenal squad, and that worries me because you look back to last game. We have such a blooming high line that we just get beaten every single time. We play such stupid football for our defence. We've got no pacey players back there, and we haven't got a fullback anymore. So I don't know.
Our game plan is borderline Sunday League. Pass to Martial. That seems to be. He gets the ball. He's the only
better than Fellaini,
He's the only one that
suppose?
gets you off your seat. And then we have people like microphone head trying to win a header in the penalty box. So.
And here's something that isn't old and boring, but is something more concerning for Manchester United fans from the day and potentially going forward. Sam, David De Gea, top form, best goalkeeper in the league for us without a doubt, and I think for a lot of fans out there.
Bad game against Sunderland.
Very bad game against
Dodgy,
Sunderland.
yeah.
A couple of uncharacteristic errors from him. How much do you think David De Gea has papered over cracks at United this season, and where would United be without David De Gea in the form he has been in?
This season and last season, De Gea has been the saving grace. I think bad form for him is probably just pressure that everyone knows that he's the man holding it together. And if their defensive line continues, then I can see David De Gea getting frustrated again and maybe wanting to leave if it carries on this way because he's the man.
He can't
holding
get
it
Real
together.
Madrid at least. That's one benefit of it. Where will he go?
It's a concern though, isn't it? I mean, with the David De Gea situation, so reliant on him.
Could you blame him wanting to leave, Andy?
Not at all, no. I mean, where do you see this club going at the moment?
We've been called a sinking ship for rivals for years, but at the moment we currently are. So I wouldn't blame De Gea if he wanted to go.
Nemanja Vidic bailed out. Bigger characters have done it. You couldn't blame David De Gea for going. But why is it, Nick, we've allowed ourselves to get into a situation where we don't have enough players that we can rely on during a game to win as a match? Why is it we only seem to have David De Gea, as you say, Anthony Martial as the 2 outs in the whole team?
I tweeted after the Sunderland game. I don't know if you saw it. I think the problems at United stem way beyond footballing issues. It started off under Moyes' footballing problems, but we have issues way beyond that. We've got poor ownership, we've got a poor but weak boardroom, and we've got a manager who seems to still be living from success in the 90s. And I still think Fergie could potentially be a problem at Old Trafford. I don't know whether there's a diversion of power. I don't know if people are fighting for power at Old Trafford. But he's always hanging around, and I don't know whether I never thought that was a problem originally, but I don't know if it is now.
Ferguson being around, whenever the camera pans to him, it almost feels like we're always going to lose the game, doesn't it? I don't know, there's this haunting factor around always going back to the most successful manager in history and never quite letting the club move on going forward.
I can't help but feel when it pans to him, I feel like we're all the little people looking up at a volcano and he's sat at the top of it. That's what I feel, and it could erupt at any time.
Could do with him erupting.
I never thought there was an issue with him being there.
It's more exciting than the football, Nick, if he erupted, trust me.
Watching him chew chewing gum's more exciting than the football.
That's very true.
But I never thought there was an issue there, but I'm starting to believe Fergie's presence could be negative, personally.
Joe, going on to one positive that we got from the game, as seems to often be the case, Anthony Martial, of course, really well taken finish on the day, lovely.
Well, he needed it, didn't he?
He did, absolutely. I mean, is he going forward then the player that we build this United team around? Is there anyone else you could realistically build it around other than Martial?
I mean, do we have a choice? That's the question. Who do we build it around? You're either building it around Mata or you're building it around Martial. That's the only 2 players I can see us building a team around at the moment. You can't build it around De Gea because we've tried that and it didn't work.
Difficult.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that it's kind of an option, isn't it? But I don't know if it's too early to say because he has gone without goals, and yes, he's playing in a god awful squad. But will he be the player for the future? Well, we all hope so. But
I think there's potential to build a team around 4 or 5 players at Old Trafford. I think it's the outskirts that are letting them down.
And who are those players you'd put
obviously
forward?
De Gea, Smalling,
right,
Schneiderlin.
You're talking about a spine then?
The spine of a team. I think there's potential there. I think it's the other 4 or 5 players in the squad starting 11 that are letting it down. Personally, that's my opinion.
It's every game. It doesn't matter who you play. It's always a different 4 or 5 players.
Yep. I don't think we have a collective issue of there's only 2 decent players in the starting 11. I think there's 4 or 5.
No, that wasn't my point. I was saying the players that you could build a team around would be Mata or Martial. It doesn't matter who the quality is. Like I said, we can't build a team around De Gea. I know Schneiderlin is a quality player. I know the rest of the team are letting us down, but the question that I answered was
I'm unsure on
Mata and Martial.
I'm unsure on Mata now.
Where do you stand on this, Sam? Mata, Martial, who would be your preference? Which player would you look to build your United team around?
I think Martial's the real deal. I text you all the time when we see him do a bit of magic, and I think 19 going on 20, getting older, he'll get more experience in the Premier League. And I don't know why Mata's not been that player for me to thread those balls through. That the way United are playing at the moment is side to side, and someone needs to play that killer pass forward, but it's not happening. It's just going to another side, and Mata should be doing that. And I think Mata's past it, to be honest. I think you need to look for someone else, and Martial's the man at the top where you build it backwards.
Definitely.
I've been thoroughly disappointed with Mata this year.
I made the point
really disappointed
on the Express show, as you've probably heard. I had a bit of a moment with Mata.
I always thought Mata was the type of player that you could play him in the number 10 role, surround him with really lightning quick wingers, and just reap the rewards of it. But now I look at him, he doesn't do anything in the games. He does absolutely nothing. And I don't know why he's still in the team at the moment. He's completely out of form. There's no confidence whatsoever. He's no pace. So even if he gets on the end of a ball, he ends up getting caught up by the defenders. I don't understand why he's still in the team at the moment.
The problem is the thing about Mata is he wouldn't need pace if we had pacey players on the pitch.
Surround him with pace.
That's what I mean, but we haven't got that. So the problem is Mata's trying to add that extra bit to his game. He isn't playing his game. We can't. I don't think we can judge our players at the moment. It's a tough season to judge them because I think there is some players in there that really have a bit of quality, but it's a team that don't know who they're playing next to most weeks. You don't know who's going to be in the squad. It's a bit of a lottery, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily get rid of Mata in the summer. That's not what I'm saying. I agree with Joe. I still think there's potentially matter to keep him, but at the moment I don't understand why he's in the team. But I'm not going to be putting him on the same shelf as Silva and Ozil, but if you look at them, they're not exactly lightning quick players, but they've been surrounded with lightning quick players, and look at the rewards you're getting with them.
Exactly my point. And when you're signing a player for in the region of £37 million, which is not a cheap deal at all, I think often he gets away with the criticism because he's a well-liked and well-respected player within the squad. And with the criticism topic burning, I'm going to bring it round to Memphis, of course, who's been full of criticism, Joe. Of course,
I've been with him all the way.
One of your favourite players, I know. But obviously failed to shine, had the big mistake against Chelsea, as everyone's picked up on, which a little bit got unfair. But
so did Januzaj, may I point out.
Absolutely.
The week before.
He failed to shine, though, on his birthday, didn't he, Memphis? He brought on to be an impact player on the day. And having had the criticism that he had against Chelsea, coming on in that Sunderland game, with the game there to be taken, both teams going to win it, why was it that he's missed another good chance to prove people wrong? And why is it that, he's now 22? People are giving Lingard stick at 23 for being in the last chance saloon. Is Memphis getting that way?
I mean, let's be honest, Lingard had a terrible game against Chelsea and he just had that one moment of brilliance. Memphis, he comes on, he didn't put the shift in that we're used to when he comes on. He was being labelled as kind of almost a super sub, wasn't he, of recent times. But yeah, he didn't come on and impress the way we thought he would do. And we need an impact player, and we are missing one. We've sold one. There's a void that we need to fill.
I think his attitude stinks, personally. But that's my opinion of Memphis.
But Memphis got a goal tonight. He's scoring in Europe. He's always scored in Europe. Every game we've played in the Champions League, he tends to score in Europe.
Against the lesser teams.
Yeah, well, maybe so, but still, it's his first year in the league. You can't, again, it's a tough year to start judging a player. We can't do another Di Maria.
Oh, no, I understand it's first season, still a very young player, but my issue with Memphis at the moment, I don't know if you saw it, it was his birthday after the Sunderland game. The same night that we lost to Sunderland, he was partying in Rotterdam. I understand it's his birthday, but could you honestly say, can you accept, would Neville, Scholes and Giggs have done that?
Well,
they probably wouldn't.
Different age of football, isn't it? That's the problem, that we are looking back a lot, and as United fans, that's all we've kind of got left to grasp onto.
I think his attitude stinks, personally. I think he wants to live a showbiz lifestyle, but he can't back it up on the pitch.
I kind of agree with the point you're making. I think it's made more of an issue because it's within the public eye, but if you had a bad day at work
4-0 and he got man of the match, then I wouldn't have had an issue with it.
If you had a bad day at work and it was your birthday, we'd still be going out.
true.
100%.
But if I was playing for Manchester United and I got beat 2-1 to Sunderland and top four was looking like it
I
was
understand.
gone.
It's a public eye issue that becomes part of it. Sam, I mean, where do you stand on Memphis? Came in as the sort of next Ronaldo, the next this, the next big thing, and he hasn't proved it. Now, he has scored against Midtjylland in the Europa League. He does score against the lesser teams in Europe. He scored against Bruges in the qualifiers, a couple of great goals. Why is he unable to then kick on? Why is he not getting confidence from it? And how much longer do you think Memphis has to sort of prove himself at United?
No first touch. That's my assessment of him. I think he gets the ball, he panics, he runs at defenders. He doesn't have a final ball that United need. When he first came, I think he kind of built a rod for his own back by showing a little bit of brilliance with the goal against PSV. And then people are expecting that week in, week out. But also the price tag of £37 million is a lot of money to pay for a 21-year-old at the time. And I think he's going to struggle. I think he's a bit off the pace of the Premier League, and maybe time needs to happen because we don't want the Angel Di Maria situation to happen again.
Yeah.
And you could stand to lose a lot of money on Memphis, whereas luckily
we made a lot of it back.
I wonder if he got a flight from the northeast or he came back to Manchester when he went straight to Rotterdam after the defeat.
Don't know. You'd have to ask him. We'll get in touch. We know where to
I'll
find
send him an email.
Get him an email sent over now. Now, someone who's been struggling on the pitch to deal with the Premier League in a different way, Nick, has been Matteo Darmian. And not so much in his performances of late, because he's picked up back after a tough spell. But yet another difficult start to the day for him, and then went off injured yet again with another sort of impact injury. Is he becoming the new Phil Jones of Manchester United? Why is it he can't keep himself fit? Why is he flying into these challenges?
I like Darmian. I thought when he first turned up, I thought he was a very, very good player. I think technically he's a very good player. I think his positioning sense is very good. I think he lacks a bit of pace and he lacks a bit of awareness sometimes, and he doesn't react as quickly as I'd like him to react. But no, I think he's a good player, and it is his first season. Like Memphis, again, I'd give Memphis another season yet before I judge. I'm a bit angry with him at the moment, but I still think he's potential there to come good, and I still think the same with Darmian. I still think there's potential there to come good.
On the Darmian situation, Joe, do you think there's a bit of naivety perhaps in wanting to prove himself to Louis van Gaal? He's perhaps throwing himself about too much, maybe just needs to calm down a little bit and get on with his natural game.
I mean, what happened to Darmian? That's what I've got. You remember him start of the season, he was our man.
Van Gaal taught him his philosophy.
Well, maybe so, but I think the problem was that he is so passionate about the game, it's quite nice to see that a player wants to get stuck in. I mean, he picked up a lot of... He's got a lot of yellow cards, and probably rightly so, but... Do you know what? I don't have an issue with that as long as he's in the game, and he's kind of thrown himself probably into a challenge that he should have been involved in, but probably not as heavy as it was. So I don't know. I think it's just another blow, isn't it? It's just one of them things that's just happened again. It's another blow to our squad, and I don't think we can't get in any rhythm because there's no consistency.
Absolutely.
I think it's premature to judge him as well. Yeah,
it is absolutely without a doubt. But 13 injuries now in that squad at this stage of the season. The effect of Louis van Gaal and injuries is yet again haunting Old Trafford, isn't it?
I'd like to see over the last 3 years since Fergie left our injury count compared to the 3 years before he left.
So are they working too hard then?
I don't understand. I think the training's been changed. I read when Fergie left, he had a specialised training plan for Van Persie to cope with his age and obviously not wanting to injure himself and stuff. And I heard something that I saw was when Moyes turned up, he scrapped everything, including that, and told Van Persie he'd have to train like everyone else. And then obviously, Van Persie was blighted with injuries in Moyes' debut season. So I don't know whether they're working too hard, but something's not right.
Definitely. Going to move on to the fan reviews, having got our thoughts on the game. And in a moment, we're going to hear from Wayne Rooney and Louis van Gaal during interviews. Joe has an interesting point to make on the likeness between the two interviews. But just to get the fan reviews in, first of all, from Twitter, just to fire through a couple. At J_Tazza, good to see you back involved with us. Back to December, he says, for his one-line review, gives the match a 2 out of 10. At Yanbook0 says, they don't look interested or bothered. It's a shambles, getting worse every time they play.
Andy.
2 out of 10 from her.
I mean, when we were on Red Wednesday a couple of weeks back.
Yes.
And everybody, remember the comments that were being sent in about how United have turned it around because we won 2 in a row. And we sat there, negative as ever, and said, well, look who we played. I mean, look at it now. Look at all these comments that are coming in.
It's
That's
incredible.
I'm just looking down a page and just seeing how things change when we actually realise how good our squad is.
Football is fickle.
It is
That's the
fickle,
problem.
and that's why we try and maintain honesty throughout all of it. Never get too excited, never get too disheartened is always the way to play it. Just to end, at Copious Opium couldn't get a one-line review into us. He said, you really don't want to hear my one-line review. He gave it 1 out of 10.
I think it begins with F and ends with off.
I think so, yeah. Good stuff from Ryan. Before we move on to the fan takeover, we've got interviews to listen to, and there's a couple more points to cover in the United chat in general before we move on. But Joe, I think you've got a likeness between Wayne Rooney and Louis van Gaal.
Well, like Nick said, Van Gaal has really been drilling in kind of his philosophy into players. Yeah, exactly. And I was listening to that today. I always have a listen to just to see if we can get some clips up. And I thought, well, I'll put on Van Gaal's, and then I got the clip, and then I thought, well, I may as well get another one, Wayne Rooney. I thought, they're saying the exact same things, maybe in different ways because of the language barrier, but I just don't understand. So I'll let you listen to him, and then I'll let you decide.
I don't think we create enough chances. Weren't aggressive enough, and it cost us not defending set pieces. So
I think what I said before the game, you have to win this kind of games, and we didn't win, and we can only blame ourselves. So 2 set plays, 2 goals, and also I think that Sunderland had more aggression and than us, and we could not cope with that aggression, and we don't keep the ball too much in our possession.
It's all about possession, isn't it?
It is.
It's always about possession.
He's usually quite animated in his interviews post-match, but even he seemed fed up after that, didn't he?
I mean, I think we're all fed up, aren't we? It just summarises how boring the football is. Even the manager can't get any excitement out of it. But I just don't understand why we're all talking about possession so much, and why we're not focusing on what we can do up top. Why has everything come down to possession in the end?
If anything, we've performed better and got better results with less possession.
Well, that's my point exactly. Why is it the captain's coming off the pitch and thinking about possession, and the manager's coming off the pitch thinking about? Surely the most important thing would be to think about what we do wrong up front and what we haven't created up front.
Absolutely. Nick, to end the United chat before we move on to the fan takeover then from Monday, I know you had a couple of points you wanted to tag on at the end, just outside of the Sunderland game and just with United in general, specifically with Mike or Chris Smalling first of all, I believe. What was your thoughts on Chris?
I just think he's come off the boil a little bit. In the last couple of games I've been watching him, I haven't been impressed. I wasn't impressed with the Sunderland game. I know it was a collective poor performance, but he was marking Coney. Was it Coney? Yeah. He was marking him and he let him go. And that early season form where he was the best centre half in the league, I think it's gone. I don't think he's there now. I think Alderweireld is brilliant at Tottenham. I think he's been sustainably the best defender in the Premier League now. I don't know whether it's the performances or the other United players have affected Chris, but I just think he's got gradually worse as the last couple of weeks have gone on.
Definitely. There has been a drop-off, and with that has been poor performance from the backline in general, which says a lot about how much he still means to us.
I know obviously he's getting mixed and matched a lot, so he doesn't know who he's going to be partnered with, but that goal we conceded against Sunderland, he should have had Coney for that.
Bad couple of weeks for Smalling, I completely agree. Started with the Newcastle game, I think, really. Sam, where do you put Chris Smalling in the grand scheme of things over the season so far? Yeah, bad couple of weeks for him. But in terms of centre-backs, I mean, Nick mentions Alderweireld, who I agree has been the best centre-back for me in the league. Where do you put Chris Smalling in the sort of centre-back rankings, if you like, for this season?
I think he's up there. I think as far as Smalling goes, he's one of the more important players at United. No matter how he's performing right now, I think over this season, if Smalling wasn't there, it could be a disaster. He's holding it together, and I think I can't decide whether we have a joke about this Mike Smalling business, and I can't decide whether that's a lack of respect from Louis van Gaal or whether it's an inside joke.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's almost a bit of ignorance to it, isn't there? And as you say, that could be down to a lack of respect. But we've actually found here on Red Devil Chronicle, we've done a bit of a renaming thing to see how it affects players' performances. We actually nicknamed Wayne Rooney Ike Rooney, didn't we, for Mike and Ike?
It worked briefly.
It did work, yeah. Back in December, he came off he was on the bench against Stoke, came back, started banging in the goals. So I think a rename can do yourself wonders sometimes. But we're thinking about doing it with one matter next.
Well, since Smalling spoke about not really enjoying being called Mike, what's happened to him?
You should. Yeah, well, exactly. Maybe you should embrace it. Now, one final question that you had to know for us, Nick, that you wanted to ask. Fire away, by all means.
If you can name one attribute that this United team currently lack, obviously you look at the United teams of old, which attribute, would it be?
I would say motivation, and this is something we're going to come back to in a moment in the fan takeover, so I won't cover it too much, but I think there's just this lack. When you look at United come out onto the pitch, it's a team of individuals, it's a team playing for themselves, not for the greater good, if you will. So I think it's motivation. I just don't think we can get ourselves up for it unless it's a huge game. I just think we really struggle. That's where I'd be at with that.
Yeah,
When did I say that started, though? Remember that all them weeks ago when I said, when did we start playing as individuals? And it was the introduction of Schweinsteiger. That was the deciding factor in when we started playing as individuals since that Arsenal game.
Right. Well, there you go. Joe's theory continues. What
That's
attribute?
a very narrative view. One player caused it all.
What attribute would you put it down as United's biggest problem, then, Joe?
Do you know what?
Schweinsteiger?
But if that was an attribute, I'd say it. But I don't know. I'd kind of agree with you with your motivation comments. I'd like to say that, but I think I agree with Nick's earlier comments and say we're just lacking pace. There's just nothing. There is absolutely no. We can't beat a player with
There's no urgency.
Yeah, that's kind of. I guess the urgency is part of the pace. Like you say, it's just.
I think it all molds into one.
Yeah.
Urgency, motivation, speed. It's all a sense of wanting to win the game, being brutal to the other team.
I think
and we don't have any of it.
We're just missing kind of a backbone. Again, before it's just a lack of desire to win matches.
Do you see it any differently, Sam? Any other attributes that you think United particularly lack?
I think there's two. I think there's one they've got too much of and one they've not got enough of. And the one they've not got enough of is penetration. It's just side to side. And the one they've got too much of is fear. And I think they get a blasting if they give away the ball. It's just possession, and no penetration with it.
Absolutely. There's United's problems summed up in one. We're going to move on then to the fan takeover. It was Monday at 12 o'clock. We got all the big questions out and we're going to discuss them next. Yes, so Monday afternoon, as we always do, all the big questions go around Manchester United. Polls, opinions, big debates get blasted around for a couple of hours, and then we discuss them on the show. We haven't got any callers on for this week, but of course we have got Sam in the studio to chip in. And Joe, as always, if you want to chip in, you're more than welcome to join.
I'm here somewhere still.
With me and Nick.
Within the bells and whistles, that's what I'm doing.
Fantastic, excellent. Now, the reason we haven't got any phoners on this week's podcast, I might as well give ourselves the plug now.
Well, I was about to mention in your ear then, without saying it, just to plug it.
Yeah, let's plug it now. Let's shamefully plug it. We have a management special coming up. It's going to be released over the weekend, probably on Saturday, because we don't have a game until Monday, so I'll give you some weekend listening to get you by. But we're going to discuss some big things around United with Louis van Gaal, possibly on the way out in the summer. Who's going to be coming in to replace him? Look at all the pros and cons, the facts so far. We're going to go really in-depth on that one. It's been asked for by Joggy, so he's going to be involved on it, we hope. And Chris and a couple of others on Twitter have asked for it, so we're giving it to you. But moving back on to tonight's podcast, fan takeover from Monday. First question we asked of you was, does City's loss give United a chance to still make the top four? Of course, interesting weekend for United with the Big Four clashing on Super Sunday. It really was. And City, of course, losing at home to Tottenham means that we still are only 6 points behind City in 5th place. Now, despite that, 61% of the voters on the poll for this question said no, despite City losing, it's not improved or made any difference. United will still not make the top four. Nick, have we genuinely given up on top four? Have we conceded it to Manchester City, whatever happens? I mean, 6 points is not a big gap, but we seem to have conceded it already.
One word, United, I'm going to ask you now, since Moyes has been here. If you could say we lack as well consistency. And how are we going to make top four when we're not very consistent? We'll play great 1 week, we'll play great 2 weeks, and then we'll lose 3 on the trot.
I think we should call this podcast consistency. I think we've
episode consistency.
Well, I just think that was my point earlier. It's just we're just lacking a run of games that we don't seem to be able to put anything together.
Some big games coming up as well, as Nick mentioned earlier on in the show. You've got Arsenal coming to Old Trafford, Leicester also coming by Old Trafford, and we've got to go to City and Spurs yet before the end of the season as well. So some tough games to come.
I think it's done. I think top 4's gone.
I mean, if you look at it
it's pretty
here,
depressing when you've got a third of the season left. That I'm saying that.
It is really, yeah. And Saif Fikarabi sees only one way in which we can get into the top 4. He says, yes, we can if we change the manager. No, if Louis van Gaal stays in charge. Sam,
No.
where do you stand on that? Would a change of manager at this stage really make any difference?
It's hard to tell. I think it's a gamble either way. I think it could go really well. Part of me thinks, what's there to lose now? What is there to lose? If we're saying that we have no hopes of the Champions League, I think it's hard to believe at the moment with games left. But if we're saying there's not a great chance of Champions League football, then why dilly-dally any longer? It just seems like a circus going round. Are we sacking him? Are we not? Are we sacking him? The press ask, he gets annoyed. I think, my personal opinion, we just end it, get rid of him, and build now. Try and get top 4, and if not, we can start now for next season.
Absolutely. So that's Sam's thoughts. If you've got any different thoughts, we're at We Follow United, of course, on Twitter. Always looking to open up the debate on that one. At Good as Tim has got involved on this. He says Thursday is massive now. Win the Europa League. We get the 2 things we desperately need: a trophy and Champions League football. Nick, you shaking your head? What's going on in your mind to that?
We're garbage. How? I mean, all right, without being blunt, there's teams in the Europa League that are far superior than Manchester United right now. There's Dortmund. I think Napoli are in there, who've got
Sevilla.
Higuain, he's got 25, 26 goals. You know, these are teams that will cause us problems all day, and we're struggling against teams like Sunderland, and we need to win every single game to win the Europa League. I can't see it.
I mean, where would you stand on this one? Where's our better opportunity lie? Top 4 or winning the Europa League? Which realistically is more likely to happen?
I still think the Premier League. That's my person. I think there's a third of the season left. We are absolute rubbish at the moment. But like I said, Van Gaal kept his job last year through 5 fluky games where we went on some tremendous run and we managed to scrape top 4. Who's to say that won't happen again? But the Europa League, I just think, barring the opposition that we played tonight, I think there's superior teams in there with the likes of Dortmund and whatnot.
Well, Cogsy666 is certainly with you, saying always have a chance until it's mathematically impossible. Shouldn't be relying on others to slip up, though. Absolutely right. And at Big C75 says, going to be too hard. Had we been chasing Liverpool or Tottenham, then maybe. But if City decide to wake up, then forget top 4. And we've discussed this previously. City have the best players in the league, have the best squad on paper. If they decide to turn it on, then they could definitely be cruising away from us. So I can understand that. But do you think, Joe, does the opposition that are in front of us dictate our chances? If, for example, Tottenham were there in the top 4, would that give us a better chance rather than having City in there? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, you're just kind of hoping that one of the teams falls apart, aren't you? I said this about Pep going to City. Will it disturb the balance of a City squad? And it has. It definitely has disturbed the balance. Pellegrini doesn't care. He's just he just sits there. I guess it'd be nice for him if he goes out on a win and goes out on winning the title. It sets him up probably for a nice new job and a bit of a pay packet to leave on. But I just think that, you know what, it probably is, answering your question, Andy, it probably is a big mountain to climb. It probably is just a slight bit too far this year. And I don't know, I wouldn't focus on the Europa League too much. I'd like to see us do well in it. Obviously, I wouldn't want us to go out straight away, which you never know with this squad. But yeah, I just want us to keep progressing.
Absolutely. So, in a one-word answer, then, I mean, 61% of the fans then have said no. We're not going to, not going to have any better chance of making top 4 still, despite the City result.
If we don't make top 4, who's going to come to us? Nobody.
Absolutely.
But likes of Neymar are not going to come to Old Trafford playing in the Europa League.
They're absolutely not. So let's have a confidence poll on this. Let's see where we're up to. Joe, one-word answer, yes or no. Do you think, as things currently stand, United are going to make top 4?
No.
Sam?
If they get rid of Van Gaal.
That's slightly longer than a word, but we'll let you off. Nick?
No.
Okay.
That was a laugh first, I think.
I'm going to be...
Just look at
It wasn't a spit on the microphone, was it?
Barring Leicester, the squads above us, would you argue they're all better than ours?
On paper, yeah.
That's why they're.
You'd
that's
have to
why they're
argue
above us.
Leicester's squad,
That's
wouldn't
why,
you, really?
barring
You would.
Leicester, who are a one-off, fluky.
No, I'm
anomaly.
saying you'd have to argue that they've got a better squad than us at the moment.
Technically, yeah, but all the teams above us have a better squad than us and are all higher than us.
Are we just missing 2 players? Is that what it is? You look at Leicester, they've got Vardy and Mahrez.
And arguably Kante.
Well, I mean, yes, I suppose, yeah, he's the most underrated player in the league, isn't he, really? But you just got to look at the top 4 and just think, I mean, Tottenham technically have got Kane and Eriksen, but you're just missing kind of a good enough players, aren't you? We're missing 1 or 2 good players.
Would Lingard get into Spurs?
Yeah.
Into their squad?
Into their starting 11? Would he
No, not in the starting 11.
But does he
I
get
think in the
into-
under-21s,
but
a bit of an Anderson.
But he's in Manchester United.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a desperate sign.
Would Bling get into Spurs?
Oh, that one, yeah, I do actually think he would get into Spurs. He would do a job at Spurs. I think we play...
Maybe at left-back. I've never really rated Danny Rose.
Rose.
Never really rated Danny Rose, personally.
I think Blind would actually... He's quite a good passer of the ball.
I think he would.
He'd help a bit of link-up in the midfield if they got played there. I'd like to see him pulled up the pitch a bit higher. Again, just for another chance. May as well change something up.
Going to fire on to the next debate and open this one up. Do United then struggle to motivate themselves against these so-called lesser clubs? Covered a little bit this the end of United chat, so we'll fly through this one a little bit. But 79% of the fans said, yes, we do tend to struggle to motivate ourselves against the smaller clubs. And as I was saying earlier, we are playing like a team of individuals, and with the criticism around Old Trafford and United in general, you can kind of understand it. You know, players are playing for themselves to avoid criticism. I get that. But is there almost an arrogance around some of the players, Nick, that leads to that lack of motivation? Players like Memphis, for example, you question their attitude in general. Do you think within the United squad in general there is an arrogance that sometimes leads to us falling short?
My girlfriend knows nothing about football. And
Okay.
I showed her a picture of Memphis, and she thought he was a rapper.
Well, technically, he is.
He is. We've all heard him. We've all heard him.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there you go. Joe, throw to you on that one then. In terms of how we're playing at the moment, is there an arrogance around Manchester United? Is that what's leading to a lack of motivation, perhaps? Is that what our bigger issue is?
I mean, I'm getting less and less motivated by United, so I don't know. I think they're frustrated. I think they're a frustrated squad. I think they're waiting. I think they're all waiting for Van Gaal to go. I agree with that. Yeah. I don't think a lot of them want to play underneath him, and I think they are doing, and they're playing to his way. And I think they're proving a point by being so boring. I think I don't think the players are happy, and I think that most of our game is because they're taking what he says to an extreme just to try and get rid of him. Maybe that's another theory for you.
I just think they're going through the notions. That's till the end of the season. That's what I generally think.
Possibly, but I can only see this getting worse for Manchester United the way it goes on, because with the money coming through the Premier League, as we've discussed many a time on the show, with the TV rights, I think this problem will worsen. Squads don't have to sell as much as they used to, and so they are keeping hold of the stronger players, and that's breeding more competition within the league, which is great in general, but obviously terrible for where Manchester United are at. I mean, do you think that's going to worsen us going forward, Sam? You know, with players not having to leave the so-called lesser teams anymore and stronger squads, more money to spend, is that gap going to get smaller? Is it going to be more of a struggle for United to get back towards the top?
I think at the moment there's a huge lack of talent, and especially available talent for transfer, which is why we're seeing these huge inflated transfer fees. And now China's getting involved, and that's going to make it harder and harder for the big clubs to just go and buy whoever they want. I think the whole top 4 is going to struggle, and if United aren't in that top 4, they're going to find it even harder, because they're going to have to throw more money to try and attract big names. Because we saw it with Stones last season. Everton had a huge offer on the table. I'm not sure they'll ever get that offer again for £35 million. And Everton didn't have to sell, and they kept him, and Stones tried to force it a little bit, and still they didn't have to sell. So if that's Chelsea, and they were champions at the time, and if they couldn't get him, then what hope do other clubs and United have at the moment of trying to attract attacking, exciting players, young players, English players, all these things that we want? What hope do they have, especially if they don't get top 4 and people can see Louis van Gaal still dragging them down? Absolutely
right. John Stone's a prime example, and Saido Berahino, the other that often springs to mind within this. So, I mean, I think problems will worsen in that respect for Manchester United, and that's why we really do have to go for it, whether it's top four, whether it is Europa League, if you think we've got a better chance in going forward and winning that. At the end of the day, Manchester United are still in 2 cup competitions, so there are still chances for trophies. Now, we asked the question, with them being in 2 cup competitions, which trophies will we still be fighting in come the end of next week? Of course, Europa League will be tied up by next Thursday evening. And the FA Cup, we play Shrewsbury, of course, on Monday night. The vote on this went this way. 62% of fans said they still think we'll be in the Europa League and the FA Cup. 25% said neither. That's a depressing one. 10% went with Europa League only, and the other 3% with just the FA Cup. I mean, how confident are we feeling within the studio, guys? Nick, with you first of all. How many competitions will we be in by the end of next week, realistically? Will we still be both, fighting in both Europa and the FA Cup, do you feel?
I'd expect us to, against the two teams that we're playing. If we're playing against better teams, no. Yeah, we should still be in them. But the minute we come up against quality at the moment, I can see us getting ripped to pieces.
And Joe, do you think a trophy for Louis van Gaal would alter his future at all? Would it affect the decision come the summer in any way, do you feel?
I hope not.
I don't. No, I don't think so. I think every fan at this point, I know you said 66%, but I think every fan is fed up of seeing the same boring football. I don't care if we win a trophy this year, I want him gone.
Have you ever known anything like this, though, Andy, in your opinion, to a club and the fans to be so against the manager? Because when a manager gets sacked, you usually have a percentage who still, like, even when Moyes got sacked, there was 20-30% of United fans still wanted Moyes there. I think you might have been one of the Moyes.
Not necessarily saying that he should have still been there with Moyes, but I think
there wasn't as much as a hatred or
what did we replace Moyes for,
campaign as there is at the moment.
They're absolutely right on that. And what I would say on Moyes is, although maybe he wasn't the right man for the job, and ultimately it probably ended up the same way 6 months later, I didn't think he'd get a fair enough crack of the whip, whereas I think Louis van Gaal has already had that, and we've already seen everything that's going to come from him. So I think you're right in that respect. Certainly within our lifetime, we've never seen anything like it, have we?
I think he's had more chances than Carrick fans had Twitter accounts, personally.
Am I right in saying that you were better off under Moyes this time last season?
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Not last season, but when he was in charge.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the same point of the season, they scored more goals.
It says everything. Van Gaal is protected by his reputation, and
he is.
And
I think he's protected
at the end of that now.
Absolutely right. And with the managerial change coming, just to fly through the last debate on this week's fan takeover, we asked you, and this is an interesting one, what is more important to you, winning trophies or the style of football? So do you play the United way or do you just want success? Now, 63% of fans who voted on this said winning trophies was more important than the style of play, which surprised me because...
Sound like Chelsea fans.
It does. Most people have been complaining about going away from the United way, not bringing in enough youth, not sticking with the attacking style of football, and yet when we put the poll out there, what do you want more of? Do you want the success or do you want the style? Fans are voting with success.
When you think back to this season at United, what games are the ones you remember? And one always sticks out. It's Newcastle because of the way we played. It may not have been a win or anything, but at least it was exciting. It was better than just watching a lot of players stand around with no passion or desire. So there's not a lot of games that stand out because they've all been so boring. But I just think that there's only a few that stand out because we played well.
Can you win football playing negative football? Can you win trophies playing negative football?
Is that not what Chelsea sort of did for half a season at the very least last season?
I just think if you look at all the teams currently in top of the leagues in their respective countries, they all play brilliantly attacking. You look at Barcelona, you look at, I don't know, Leicester even, the top of our league, they play attacking football. They're not dominated by possession. They're not dominated by how many passes they've made in one match. It is just attacking, free-flowing football.
Absolutely. I mean, do you think it's a bit of a sort of chicken and egg debate, this one, Sam? I mean, does the style of play influence ultimately success? If you play the right way, do you get success, as Nick's suggesting?
To a degree, yeah. I think I'd rather see United finish second and play great, and we know that they've tried, and the passion. I'd rather see that than see this and win the league right now. I don't want to win the league.
Yeah, totally agree.
And have this football. It really, really turns me off United right now. I cannot bear it to watch.
It's becoming a chore to watch.
And if United won the league with this, I'd be disappointed still. if United finished second or third or fourth and played with passion, flair, and conceded a few more goals, then I'd be happy with that.
Certainly the way I stand. Let us know your thoughts on anything from the Fan Takeover. Another great one this week, and thanks for everyone who got involved on that. We're at WeFollowUnited on Twitter. Do let us know your thoughts. We're going to park a little side feature in here between Nick and I. He's got some thoughts on a little feature that he's got called Should I Stay or Should I Go? We're going to have a quick discussion through that in just a moment. Okay, so as a famous band once said, should I stay or should I go?
I think everyone was hoping it meant me.
Be interested to see the poll on that one. But Nick, I know you've put together a little piece here. It's quite a table. It's a shame we haven't got the camera in this week for this one, but
Yeah.
We can take a picture.
Don't ever say I don't do my homework, Andy.
Absolutely. So what was you thinking behind this? What led to you coming up with this?
It's just there's constant talk on Twitter and other various websites and social media about we need to rebuild, we need to do this, we need to do that. We are 3 years after Fergie. Why are we still rebuilding? We've spent vast amounts of money, and I've just composed a list of my opinions. You know, you might think differently. I might think differently on something else that I did the other day. It's just a constant change in opinion. But we have a squad here of players, and the people that I would get rid of is quite long.
It is a long list of players to either sell or loan, and I noticed there's some asterisks next to some of the names. Do these come with terms and conditions on them, do they?
They're just loans, Andy, even being honest. I was trying to be thorough.
Right, very good.
If we go through the list,
yeah, absolutely.
We'll see where you are.
Through, yeah.
Okay, so obviously, David De Gea. I think we can just totally ignore that one.
Yeah, we're going to keep him, obviously.
Obviously, stay. Anthony Martial.
Again,
stay. Wayne Rooney.
Whoa, what? What?
David De Gea and Martial, keep.
No. What was that next one?
Wayne Rooney's the next one.
And in your keep list?
Yeah.
Bloody hell, I am surprised.
And this has come back to a point Sam makes. I don't think there's enough talent in the open market at the moment to replace him. That's my only opinion. If we finish outside the Champions League places, I would get rid of. We could get someone like Kane, but I don't think we will.
I'm just surprised, Nick. I never thought I'd see that.
You're keeping hold of Wayne Rooney, I take, Joe. Then there's no way he's going off your list, is he?
Well, never. The captain, our
It
captain.
hurt. I must admit, it hurt me to write that. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, but anyway,
firing on. He's staying then.
Mike.
Yeah, of course.
Staying.
Yeah.
Ashley Young.
Still has a job to do.
Still has a job. Great squad player to have, experienced. Have to have him around the changing rooms. Ander Herrera.
Yeah, well, we've got to keep him. He's got to play as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see a bit more consistency with Herrera. Get a nice run of 10, 15 games together. And then obviously we have Luke Shaw.
He has to stay for me. I mean, why would you ever get rid of him? He was our
Future
brightest
England left back. Yeah.
He was our brightest player early doors in the season. Horrific injury.
Yeah,
obviously, he's staying.
He's one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
Morgan Schneiderlin.
Can't understand why Louis van Gaal doesn't play him, but I think if Louis goes in the summer, I think you'll really see Schneiderlin.
He will be a key figure. He'll really step into his own.
You mentioned about the Spanish
play
squad.
tonight, didn't he?
He's in there, absolutely. Yeah.
Guillermo Varela, the young 22, 23-year-old right back, Uruguayan.
You can't put a debate together to get rid of him.
Not seen enough. When I have seen him, I have been pretty impressed. I think he could be potentially a good squad player to have if we don't, obviously, if Darmian is still going to get injured constantly. Basti.
Can't judge us yet. I know Joe's not a particularly big fan of him with what he's seen so far, but I'd certainly keep hold of him.
He's got on my retirement list.
We've gotten rid of so much experience in the last few years, the likes of Van Persie and Everett and Vidic that have all left us. I think you cannot buy his experience, and I think with a better, more attacking manager, I think he'd come into his own like Schneiderlin.
Hopefully so. Firing through another couple on the keep list that we can't really sort of go into too much detail on at the moment. You've got players like Paddy McNair in there.
Yeah.
Jesse Lingard.
Squad players.
Players.
Just to fill the blanks. Basically.
You've got Rashford there, Johnston, Pereira, Borthwick, Jackson, Ware. All these players you're going to keep hold of. They're young utility players coming through.
Yeah. Memphis has just made it on the end of this list. I see. He's kind of like an afterthought. Were you moving him about?
As you can probably tell, I did think long and hard It is his first season. I do want him to come good at United. I hope he comes good. He has so much talent and potential. But again, I come back to his attitude and his motivation. I think it stinks. I think he wants to live in a celebrity showbiz culture. And I think he's more concerned about that at the moment than putting the ball in the net.
There's only one real player for me on this keep list that you've put together, on the keep side of things anyway, Nick, that shouts out to me potentially that I would look to get rid of at the moment. And it's not one matter.
Is it not?
It's not one matter. I'm going to keep hold of him for now. I'm thinking more about Adnan Januzaj.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that.
No.
We could cash out. If this was a bet, you'd cash out with Januzaj. It's just not a player that I want to see in the squad.
Is he ever going to do it, Nick?
If you look at the season Januzaj's had with United, he's played under Moyes and he's played under Van Gaal. I'd like to see him play under a better manager, personally, before I make my opinion. I think he's not I don't think he's used all his chances up yet.
I'd also loan James Wilson. You've got him on the keep list. I don't think he's going to step it up.
He's
in the
another
next
player
season.
that's only played for us in the dark ages. So I can't really judge his talent. He's only come good. He's only played coming to the first team against with Moyes and Van Gaal. So how can you base a solid opinion? He's still very young.
Okay. Well, let's fire through some of the sell players then, because this is a long list as well.
Which is quite worrying, which is
it is, yeah. Considering all the deadwood that we've removed so far, it's quite worrying to be in this position. Now, certainly the top one, I agree, is not good to be Manchester United longer term, Fellaini.
First name for me.
First name on the sheet, yep. Now, you back that up with Phil Jones. Now, why is this?
I don't think he's good enough. He's always injured. Just because he goes into the away end with the United fans at Liverpool doesn't make him start an 11 for Manchester United. He isn't good enough. He's not consistent. He's not a kid anymore. He's constantly injured. Are you going to win the Champions League and the Premier League with Phil Jones at centre-back?
Fair enough. Moving on to the third one then. You mentioned about getting rid of a lot of experience over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
And then you put Michael Carrick down as a player to get rid of.
Yeah.
Why is this?
Experience is okay when you're a certain age. Bastian's 30-31. Rooney's 30-31. Carrick's approaching his 35th birthday. And I think he gets to the point now where we're at a crucial point in United's history. We need to do well, and I think he's too old personally. I would look to move him on. And possibly, depending on how well Leicester do this year, I'd look at someone like Kante.
Okay. I was going to ask you if there were any replacements out there, because they are sparse, aren't they?
Kante's absolutely brilliant. Every time I watch him, his work rate, his aggression, he's everything that would be great in a midfield three.
Now, the next one also surprises me, and I have to say, Nick, despite the criticism that we've given him as a show, I wouldn't get rid of him. Daley Blind is on the sell list already.
I'm glad you disagree. I know it's a controversial one. I'm not a huge fan. What position does he play? Is he a centre midfielder? Is he a centre back? Is he a left back? Is he good enough to hold down any of those spots long term?
I'd get rid of him.
Thanks.
I think he signed as a defensive mid type of player, left back player. I don't know where he plays. Not fast enough. Can't tackle. Can't pass. I just don't get him.
Within the squad, though, it is nice to have a utility player of sorts that can come and cover certain positions.
He wouldn't be happy with that, though.
John O'Shea, for example, was not.
I agree with that.
Was not the sort of man who was ever going to. Yeah.
He's better than John O'Shea, but John O'Shea was happy being a bit part player at Manchester United. He isn't. He thinks he's a starting 11 player. He's not.
In the current squad, he certainly has been.
Shockingly, yeah.
There you go. Sergio Romero, fly through, mate. Obviously not good enough.
I don't think he's good enough as a number
fair
two.
Enough.
Yeah.
Antonio Valencia.
I felt a little bit upset about doing this because he is a long-serving player at the moment now. But again, I think we could get better. I think there's better players out there. I think even the youth coming through could step up. He's not young anymore. He's 31 this year. He's injured. He's getting injured more.
Did the leg break ruin his career?
I think he's a different player since that ankle Brett went. I don't know if you remember it. It was quite a few years back. I think we were playing Blackburn in the cup, and I think that's the best game ever. He scored a goal for us.
Yeah, I remember.
And
he
was dominant down that right wing, and I don't think he's the same player anymore personally.
There you go. Couple of lone players: Tuanzebe, Goss, Love, and McNair. I think that's all fair enough. Now, Will Keane, recently recalled to the Manchester United team, is not down as a loan on your list here, Nick. He's down to be sold. Any reason for that?
Is he going to get ahead of Anthony Martial?
Is James Wilson going to get ahead of Anthony Martial?
James Wilson's 20. Will Keane's 23. He's got time on his hands. That
so
was
Will Keane for you has no place in the squad then?
I don't think he's good enough, personally. I think he's a very good under-21 level. I hope I'm proved wrong. Don't get me wrong. He's a Manchester United player. So I don't want to be right about it. That's just my opinion, But I don't think he's good enough, personally.
Fair enough. You follow that up with another, fairly young player, obviously getting on a bit now, Nick Powell. You're also getting rid of him altogether.
Yeah, too many loans out the club. He's not backed up his fee that we paid. There's talk about his attitude. He got sent back from, where was he at when he got... Was it Hull or Derby?
He was at Hull.
Was it at Hull and he got sent back because of his attitude?
Yeah.
Or was it Leicester? I can't remember. But no, I'm not a fan. I think
not a fan of Nick
Injured all the time.
There you go. Came from Crewe.
Still a very young player. He could make it, but I just don't think it's going to be at Manchester United again. Hope I'm proved wrong.
Valdez, second to last. I think we all know he's on his way out. Already loaned. He's not coming back. And you end it with Tyler Blackett. This is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, Manchester lad. Really want him to do it. I don't even think he gets into the Celtic team.
He doesn't.
So I can't see a future, sadly. But yeah, local Manchester boy. Really wanted him to do well, but these things happen.
Should they stay or should they go then? Let us know if you agree or disagree with any thoughts of Nick's very comprehensive table, which we'll tweet later on. Just let us know what your thoughts are if you disagree or agree with any of the thoughts, and let us know why, please, at WeFollowUnited and in the comments section below. Ending the show then this week, we're going to go through the news of the social world, and that is coming up next. Okay, ending the show with news of the social world. We're going to fly through this one. Just look at some of the big topics mentioned on social media through Twitter. We've got a quick Q&A session to do as well, and a little poll that we put up for you, the fans, as well. But I wanted to start with something that you took issue with, Nick, and that was about Louis van Gaal mentioning to the press about being disappointed with Bastian Schweinsteiger. It wasn't quite quoted that way. It wasn't exactly what was said.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is Louis van Gaal really in a position to say that to Schweinsteiger this early on in his United career?
No. Do you think he is?
I can understand why he's got to that stage, and it's justifiable because he obviously hasn't turned up and done what United fans hope for him.
He's not. He's a shadow of what he was at Bayern Munich, but at the same time, he was in a brilliant Bayern Munich team. He's in a shambles of a Manchester United team, and he's at the latter stages of his career. So Van Gaal has to be realistic. He wasn't going to sign a Bastian Schweinsteiger of 25, 26 who was going to boss the midfield. He was going to sign an ageing midfielder who wanted one last hurrah at another league. And I'm a big fan of Schweinsteiger. I still am now. I think he's still got a lot to offer in the United team. And I thought it was a bit out of order for Van Gaal to say that personally. Fair
enough. I mean, Sam, do you think Schweinsteiger should have been signed by United in the first place? There were warning signs. People within Bayern said his legs had gone. Obviously not getting any younger, approaching his 31st birthday as he signed for us. Was it a mistake from United's part?
I don't like Bastian Schweinsteiger anymore. I think he was a great player. I think he has lost it a little bit. And I think part of the problem United are suffering from is too many midfielders, too many players in the same positions. And we saw on that list previously that like Carrick would go and maybe Blind and whatever. But you've got Herrera, Mata and Schneidlin all fighting for these same positions, and there's no consistency. And I just don't think Schweinsteiger was really needed.
There you go. So do you think it was justified? People of Twitter, let us know. Was Louis van Gaal in the right to say what he said about Bastian Schweinsteiger? Get in touch on that one. We're going to continue to fly through because we've still got plenty to cover here. Following the Barcelona penalty, I don't know if you guys saw that against Celta.
Yeah.
A little bit of genius with the Messi pass and the Suarez finish. We just decided on the back of that to ask you, well, what's the most audacious thing you've ever seen United do? We've got a couple in here. At Clay 1978 United says, Cantona versus Newcastle beats 6 men along the byline, round to keeper and dinks it in. Saying that, so many Cantona moments of audacity. Absolutely agree. I think that moment, though, that Chris refers to was a testimonial, wasn't it? So, I don't know. Is that really audacious?
I can't really remember Andy even being honest. I was quite young at that point.
Now, Cogsy666 gets in touch and says, Evra's throwing that he bounced off Giggs back once in that Manchester derby always makes me smile. Makes me smile as well, but if that's all the audaciousness that United have got, it doesn't say a lot, does it? At John C. Batty says, the corner where Wayne Rooney moved the ball ball inches out of the quadrant and took a return pass from the player who looked as though he was going to take it. That, of course, was the Giggs one against Chelsea. Well, yeah, very clever. Of course, the goal got disallowed, so not particularly clever in the end. And at Big C75 says, not really audacious, but the quick free kick Giggsy scored against Lille. That was the one where I think Rooney popped it down and he just hit it quick with the keeper on the other post. So we're not the most audacious team, are we, when you look through those? I mean, are there any others that spring to mind?
I put mine in the notes, Andy.
What have you gone with?
Phil Jones taking a corner.
Fantastic. That is pretty audacious, to be fair.
No, I don't know. The 99 final was probably one of the most dramatic.
Last year, that wasn't it? The
dramatic
Phil Jones corner.
It was,
yeah. He put his 2 hands in the air.
Gave the signal.
For absolutely no reason whatsoever, but yeah, okay. But an alternative footballing point of view, the 99 final is probably, I think that's the most dramatic way to win a European Cup. That's probably the most audacious thing I've seen United do.
I mean, I went with Nani, and this isn't as big a stage as what you're just mentioning.
I think big, Andy.
But absolutely. But I've gone with Nani and United in general towards the end of that 2008 FA Cup game against Arsenal at Old Trafford. Cruising 4-0 up. Nani gets the ball, flicks it on his head a couple of times, brings it down, got a player on the floor, I think it was Justin Hoyt trying to follow him round, and he just dinks it round him and ends up nearly getting his legs snapped off, I think, by... it might have even been Fabregas back at the time, but very entertaining.
Ronaldo's debut. I've just thought of one, actually.
Yeah.
I was at that game. We played Bolton.
Bolton, yeah.
And he came on, a young 18-year-old Portuguese lad with, bright silver boots, and everyone's like, who the hell is this? And he gave Ricardo Gardner, who was at that point was a seasoned Premier League left-back, an absolute torrid time. So, yeah, that was quite a brilliant move from Fergie.
Absolutely. Moving on to the final part of the show, then, we put a Q&A out there on Twitter this week. So just going to fire through a couple of questions that did come in, answering as quickly as possible. At Cogsy666 says, do you think the loss of Luke Shaw has affected us a lot more than people think? Sam, I'm going to let you answer this one from Wayne on Twitter. What do you think? Luke Shaw's injury, has it affected us more than people think or thought initially?
Definitely. I think he's been a great player at the start of this season. Fantastic, really propping up that left side of the United defence and attacking. But I want to give a shout out to Bothwick Jackson. Really, what a player, young player, what a bright future he has. He's come in and really done well. Some of the crosses he put in are reminiscent of what Luke Shaw was putting in, taking players on. So as far as a stand-in, I think your left side is sorted now. If Bothwick Jackson can keep it up just for as an interim, so hopefully it'll get better. But Luke Shaw being fit, I think, would have helped a lot if he had stayed fit throughout the season.
Absolutely.
He looks half asleep all the time as well, Bothwick Jackson.
He does, but he doesn't half whip a good ball in.
Decent little player.
He's done a good job, as Sam says, filling in the gap, absolutely. At True Fan Man United says, do we think Nicky Butt is the answer? If so, why? Nick, I'll let you answer that one. He's been brought into a sort of role within the youth team, hasn't he? Yeah, absolutely,
it's too early to judge Andy, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It'd just be speculation if I talk about it. Good luck to Nicky. Obviously, next United, great, but I can't really say. It's too soon. It's only... Give it 6 months and we'll be able to tell.
Absolutely. He also tags on the end of that, can any United fan tell me 5 good points about LVG at United? No. We'll move on. If anyone's got 5, let us know at We Follow United on Twitter. At Deepak Siani says, do United play with 2 defensive midfielders far too often? Is that down to LVG's lack of faith in defence? And was that thought vindicated by how open United were against Newcastle and Wolfsburg? I'll take this one for you. I think United do certainly play 2 defensive midfielders too often, absolutely. Playing people like Schweinsteiger and Schneiderlin together, or Carrick and Schneiderlin together, they're not complementary of each other. And as a result, too much sideways passing, too much negativity, and not enough to add to the attack going forward. So there almost becomes a link between the two when you play an attacking sort of midfielder and a defensive midfielder, as Matic and Cesc Fabregas did for Chelsea. So I think in that respect we absolutely do, and especially at Old Trafford, there really is no need for us to do it. We should be going out to attack more, should be playing people like Herrera, and giving them a chance in a central midfield role, in my opinion. But I think it is vindicated by how open we were away at Newcastle in the Wolfsburg game. I can understand that point. And that's why I think you just set up for the individual opponent that you're playing against at the end of the day. If you need to play 2 holding midfielders in a game, that's fine if that's the result you're going for. But if you're playing Sunderland at home, why are you playing 2 defensive midfielders? That's my argument.
Good points there, Andy.
Thanks very much, Nick. At C. Clay, 1978 United, LVG says press are inventing stories about him. What story would you invent to annoy Louis van Gaal? Any thoughts on this?
I reckon that he joined the Mile High Club as he was flying to Denmark.
Incredible.
With a 24-year-old air stewardess.
There you go. I'm going to continue my theory about Louis van Gaal's hatred for the Spanish, which I'm hoping we get a chance to cover one day. And ending the show with one final one. At Jan Buck 0, when do you think Louis van Gaal will actually go, and when will we get Mourinho? Sam, I'll leave this one last question of the show with you. Is Louis van Gaal actually going to go this summer? When do you think he's going, and will we get Mourinho?
I would love to see him go as soon as possible. I don't think he's going to go until the end of the season, though. I think they're just going to stick it out, and I'm just not sure what Ed Woodward's doing, really, which makes me think, if I don't know what he's doing, I can't answer your question. But I think maybe Mourinho's not the man. Maybe he is the man, but is there anyone else? So hopefully Mourinho will be there if he's the only one available, but maybe we should cast our eyes a bit further than just Mourinho.
Possibly so. And that leads me to one last final plug. Listening Saturday over the weekend, you're going to hear a managerial special from us at We Follow United on YouTube through Red Devil Chronicle. We'll post links to that when that one goes live, so listen out for that one and do get involved. That's the end, though, of this week's show on the Chronicles. It's been another great show. Thank you to everyone involved in it. It's been brilliant. Thanks to Sam who's joined us in the studio, to Nick and Joe as always, and thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.